Hello everyone, I am Samyukta, Assistant Professor of English. So today we have the poem The Justice of Peace by Hillari Belloc, a short analysis of this poem. First, about the poet. Hillari Belloc is an English writer with a French Anglican origin. So he is a famous writer and historian. In many of his works, he satirizes his society. So this poem in particular talks about the economical inequalities and the injustices of his society. So Belloc lived during the period of 1870 to 1953, and he was a very famous and popular writer in England during the 20th century. He collaborated with the famous English writer G.K. Chesterton with many works, and he wrote both essays and poetry on various different subjects. Now let's see a small background to this poem and also the title meaning of this poem. The poem revolves around the concept of economic and social inequality that is prevalent in the English society during Belloc's period. And the title of the poem is The Justice of Peace. So, Justice of Peace were appointed in local administrative bodies to maintain peace in community during the early 20th century in England. So these JPs or Justice of the Peace are usually not required to have any legal education to hold this post. They are appointed by the citizens of the particular jurisdiction. So this is the meaning of the Justice of Peace, and we will see the relevance of the title to this poem in the upcoming slides. So this poem has 3 stanzas, and each stanza has 6 lines, and all these stanzas are identical to one another, so it has a very uniform pattern. And this poem is taken from Belloc's poetry collection Sonnets and Verse. So next, let's move on to a stanza by stanza analysis of the poem. So the first stanza: distinguish carefully between the two. This thing is yours, the other thing is mine. So from these lines, it is clear that there is one speaker and he is talking to an unnamed listener. But as the poem progresses, we will be able to understand who the speaker is and who the listener is. So the speaker is again continuing: you have a shirt, a brimless hat, a shoe, and half a coat. So these things, only a shirt, a brimless hat, a shoe, and half a coat, these only seem to be the possessions of the listener. So maybe the listener is of a very humble background. So he might be a poor peasant or a poor farmer. So these are the possessions of the peasant. And here it is mentioned that he possesses half a coat, not a full coat, but the coat is only half. So that means that the coat is so old and tattered. So this again points out the fact that the listener is of a very humble background. And then, so these seem to be the possessions of the farmer, whereas the possessions of the speaker is the 100 acres of fat land. And it's not just any land, it is a fat land. So it's such a huge possession, and these possessions belong to the Lord Benign. And this Lord Benign is the speaker. So we come to know that the speaker is actually a rich landlord, and the farmers seem to be working in the landlord's land. So the speaker distinguishes between two things which he and the listener possesses. So the division of their possessions indicates the inequality they face in the society. So having such a vast land is cited as his rights by the speaker, and he is very proud of his possessions also. So in the next stanza, the first 2 lines, the speaker repeatedly says that he has a right. So what the speaker is trying to do here is he is trying to justify his rights for the property. It forces him to leave it as simply as his rights. So then he orders the listener to be calm and good, and maybe not to complain about the division of the things. Maybe the poor farmer is very upset about the inequality that is prevalent in the society, and so the rich man is asking him not to complain about the division of the things that are very common in society. And he also commands him to obey the laws which might be in favor of the rich and the powerful. He again wants the listener to remember his lower position. Lower station here denotes to people from a humble background, and not to fight against him because he may get hurt. Because usually when people fight against powerful people, they usually get hurt by some sort. So through this, the speaker tries to expose his economical power, which made him to be a hypocrite. And in the last two lines of the stanza, the speaker also asks the listener not to fight against the goat because it pricks whenever the uncleanly demos kicks. So the goat here is actually a thing, a long stick kind of a thing, which is used to control sheep. That is the thing that the shepherds use to control the sheep. So the speaker is telling that it pricks whenever the uncleanly demos kicks. So demos here, it refers to the population in a community. But before that word, there is an adjective uncleanly. So again, it denotes to people from a very humble origin, people who are in the lower strata of the society. So they are referred here as the uncleanly demos. So when the uncleanly demos kicks means when people of lower station, when they fight against power and economical injustice, they will be bitten with a goad. Goad again here, something which is used to control the sheep. So here the people are referred to as sheep, whereas the powerful people here are referred to as shepherds, who might beat the people from humble background with a goad if they try to resist the power structure that is existing in the society. So this is the metaphorical imagery that the poet tries to bring out in this stanza. And in the final stanza, the speaker is talking about the jealousy. The speaker states that he does not feel jealous of the listener's possessions, such as his coat, hat, and shoe. Then why should the addressee feel jealous of the speaker's property? So that is his question. Further, he also threatens the speaker that it was illogical to fight with economical power. That is, it was absurdly stupid to fight against economical power. So, and also he asks him to accept his fate and live in poverty. So what the rich man is trying to convey here is that he is asking the poor man to accept his fate, accept the state of poverty, and just live with it, and not to try to escape out of the economical structure that is being constructed in the society. So only then will the rich man retain his power, and only then he can become richer and wealthier. So that is the idea that is being conveyed in the final stanza. And what is ironical here is that the poor man is not only suppressed by economical force, but fate is also against him. That is the ironical situation here. And in the last two lines, the rich man also states that he has got the upper hand, meaning he is in the highest rate of the society. He is at the top of the power structure, so no one can oppose him or resist him or fight against him. So that is the thing that he is talking about here. So these are the three stanzas. So in the first stanza, we saw how the rich man distinguishes between the possessions of the rich man and the poor peasant, and how he states that he has the right to what he owns. And in the second stanza, we saw the metaphorical comparison between the sheep and the shepherd, and how the sheep are being controlled by the goat. That is how the people from lower strata of the society are being controlled by the people in the highest rate of the society, that is the rich and affluent people. And in the final stanza, the poet brings out the irony in society, that is how the rich people keep on getting richer and how the poor people are unable to escape from their fate and they keep on getting poorer. So that is the idea that is being conveyed in this poem. And here in this next slide, there are just pictorial depictions of the poem. Just a few cartoons to understand the concept in this poem better. That is how on one side there is concentration of wealth and it is keep on getting increasing, and on the other side there is increase in poverty and there is no way to escape it. And how the people of more power, they are keep on rising, and how the people in the lower strata, they are keep on going downwards. And also the final picture, we see how people on the top spot, it is easy for them to reach the final mark because there are absolutely no hurdles in their path, whereas the people of humble origin, they struggle a lot, they suffer a lot, there are so many hurdles in their path and it is very difficult for them to reach the final mark. So this is the power structure, this is the structure that is being constructed both financially and economically in this society. So next we have an analysis of the poem. First, the form of the poem. So this poem can be called as a dramatic monologue. So monologue is actually mono means single and log is dialogue. So it is actually a single person who is speaking throughout the poem. So that is called a monologue. Dramatic in the sense it is over exaggerated and dramatic. So that is why it's called a dramatic monologue. So in this poem we have only one speaker, that is the rich landlord, and he is the only one who is speaking throughout the poem. So that's why it's called a dramatic monologue. So next, there are only two characters in this poem, a rich landlord and a poor peasant. So as we said, a rich landlord is the speaker and the poor peasant is the listener. And then the theme of the poem, as it is already said, is social and economical inequality that is always present, but in particular it is pertaining to the time and scenario in which the poet lived. And the tone of the poem is highly sarcastic, and the poet also tries to bring out some dark humor. So dark humor in the sense something that is very twisted and something that has the potential to hurt the readers. So this poem can be called dark humor as well. And finally, the poetic device that the poet has used is irony. So the main idea that is being conveyed in this poem is that the title actually gives hope for justice. That is, at the end of the poem, one might expect that justice has finally been given to the people who are in need of it. But Hillari Belloc has wanted to resist the economical and social inequality. So he satirizes his society through the poem, and he just portrays the thing as it is realistically happening in the society. So this quote, remember your low station, do not fight against the goat, because it pricks whenever the uncleanly demos kicks. So this might as well be the crux of this poem. This quote brings out the concept that the poet is trying to explain through these lines. With that, we come to the end of this video. Thank you for watching this video, and if there are any doubts or comments, please share them in the comment section below. Thank you.